Okay, so this is the beginning of my recording documenting everything that was wrong in our kitchen, different than what we laid out with specific pictures, I might add, for each and every section of the kitchen, because I wanted there to be no misunderstanding as to what went where. So first thing is right here, where actually this was not supposed to be 4 doors. It's not such a huge deal, but this bottom piece was supposed to be 1 full door. First thing, these top 2 cabinets were supposed to be dividers for cookie sheets and trays, pans, things like that. He bored them out for adjustable shelves, so it's obvious that he built them not how I had planned and given him specific instructions on. So now he's got to figure out how to go in after the fact and add tray dividers, and he doesn't know how. So it's something that's going to have to be problem solved. Also, I don't know if you can see, but there are flaws like this, and see the texture of this paint that he specifically told me would be smooth as glass, and there is literally flaws in every single section. In the wood, there's cracks and splits in the wood in every single door. Yeah, the sides are rough as sandpaper. Or let's see if I can get it to focus on a split in the wood there. No. Okay. So these cabinets right here, he had started doing incorrectly, but because they were supposed to be shelves, we were able to instruct him just to add shelves. He only had 2 shelves built for these, and I gave him a picture of what these cabinets were supposed to look like, and they each included 4 shelves for casserole dishes. And then this is the cut up wood shelf that I was left with. And mess everywhere. Everything is covered in sawdust and dirt and grime. Also, this is about as good as the paint line gets on the inside of the cabinet. Obviously not done well. This wood is not finished off at all. It's rough and splintery. Let's see. More beautiful paint lines on the inside of the cabinet. So this cabinet up here he built incorrectly, so they had to adjust when putting in the microwave. Stephen had to build a wood piece to go in the back to bring the microwave out, even though he had the dimensions on the microwave. This cabinet is kind of a big deal because what I gave him for this specific section was that this cabinet was supposed to, there's supposed to be one cabinet that fit specifically under the window. It was supposed to be the exact width of the window with 2 drawers and 2 doors, because I wanted it to be the exact dimensions of the window. And then right beside it, right here, there was supposed to be a 3rd small drawer and 1 door. When he brought these in, he told me that he did this instead because he thought that it would be better for me because I cook so much, which has become his standard go-to. I did this for you because you cook so much. Now, this incredibly long piece of wood shelf when he put up, had no brace whatsoever. It was bowing and jumping. So Stephen had him come in and build this and put it underneath it because he wanted to just put a peg in the back to hold up the shelf for all of my cast iron pots and pans. Also, let's see, more splits in the wood. And there's also, let me see if I can you see this honey pattern in the paint? It's a little difficult to see, I realize, but it is on every single door. Evidently, they laid the not cured doors on some sort of mat that left indentions and everything. And I'm trying to see if you can see the texture. It's really evident in the evening when the sun comes through, but these cabinets that were supposed to be smooth as glass look like a child painted them with a lint-filled roller, and supposedly they were sprayed. So this is the only shelf cabinet that he built correctly. And he kept trying to put a Lazy Susan in here. I had to tell him about half a dozen times that I was not getting a Lazy Susan, that I wanted a shelf for my appliances. And also this door, I think he had to remake 3 times. The first time he made it the wrong size. Then the second time he screwed the hinges on the wrong side and had to remake it. There's, you can see right here, maybe. It's not very clear, but there's drippy paint on every single side of every door in the kitchen. So this one section right here was built correctly in this one corner. That's it. And this Lazy Susan, not Lazy Susan corner cabinet down here, every single thing besides this in the kitchen was built incorrectly. This specific section right here was supposed to be a shelf. I gave him pictures and showed him I wanted open shelves on either side of the window above the sink, just like my grandmother had in her kitchen. And he brought these down and hung them up, and as you can see, there's no shelf on either side of the window. Then, well, let me get a big, this section right here was supposed to be half open bookcase for my cookbooks and all of my cake plates, my covered cake servers, those kind of big pretty glass dishes that I have. It was supposed to be half and half. As you can see, that's not, I don't even think that's a full third of this. And if you can tell, the far left door is very shiny. It was actually given the coat of lacquer, unlike every other door in the kitchen. So he has to now take down every single door and drawer in the kitchen, sand and repaint them due to the paint flaws, drips, honeycomb pattern that's on the inside of every single door. And the fact that the second half of doors that he did are completely different. So let's see if you can see the bowing of the shelf. He still, even though I've reminded him twice, has not come back to put supports in this 4-foot long board that's for dishes. And I think you can tell that the second from the top shelf is dipping in the middle. He again told me yesterday that he was going to take care of it last night, and he didn't. So this is the infamous corner shelf and drawers that he built, where these three drawers, this cabinet and the drawer on the left, cannot open. So he came in to put the knobs in one day, left the pull off the top right cabinet, and when I started problem solving, trying to figure out why he left that one off, started opening things and realized the drawers would not come past the doorknobs on this cabinet. And then these two drawers obviously are going to open into one another. So he didn't come back for several days afterwards, with which we could not get into the drawer that had our silverware in it. And then he told me he couldn't figure out how to fix it, so I had to problem solve this for him. So he is having to take inches off of either side of these drawers, and is supposed to be putting in extra wood on this side to fill in that space, to scoop the drawers out farther. And then he has to put in a wooden box here that will hold butcher block cutting boards for me. But sounds cool, except that now I'm going to be losing full drawer on the left and a quarter of the drawers on the right, and I had every inch of this kitchen mapped out how I needed it, so that's a bummer. Then over here, the fridge cabinet. It was supposed to go all the way to the ceiling, but when he built it, he did not do that. And then when I called him on it, he said, well, fridge cabinets don't go that high. Where I had to remind him that this is a custom cabinet job and all the cabinets were supposed to go to the ceiling. So you can very clearly see where he's tried to do a patch job and add a cabinet on top. And turns out he had to go get more paint matched at Sherwin-Williams, and lo and behold, the paint color doesn't match. So now they have sprayed half the doors and the top of this with a paint color that's totally different. And because he did not build that properly to begin with, now he's having to make my doors funky instead of just leaving them be to cover the space. He was supposed to put soft close tracks on all of my cabinets, and of course he let me know loudly many times how expensive those were after that's what he quoted and sold me on when we originally designed the kitchen. He said that was the only thing he used. And while I've got this open, I'm going to see if you can possibly see the drips running all down that cabinet. Maybe not. But these are not soft close at all. They're just regular tracks. So then I notice that this tiny little 4-inch door has a knob that's been placed almost in the middle of it. So when he asked me how I wanted the knobs on these cabinets, I showed him the placement, and then he measured and built a guide. So on these doors, it's perfect. He then took the same guide that he was using on these 20-inch doors and used it on this 6-inch door. So when I called him on that yesterday, he said, well, I would never put a knob there, but you said that was the measurements you wanted me to use. And I told him that was the measurement I gave him for all of the normal size doors in the kitchen, that I never intended for these tiny little skinny 6-inch doors to have a knob right in the middle. And on top of that, it's very difficult to open because your force is coming from almost the middle of the door instead of out here in the corner where a cabinet force is supposed to come when you open it. And evidently he also put the wrong size of these plates in all the cabinets, and so he has to go back and replace all of those. This pull-out was originally a pull-out from the very beginning of our design, and I noticed at one point about a month ago that he said something that made me think he was not making a pull-out. He said, no, it's a cabinet door. And when I asked him about it, he said, oh, no, we're not making this a pull-out. You wanted a cabinet. And I said, no, this is always supposed to be a pull-out, because otherwise how am I going to get back to the back of this cabinet that is the depth of a refrigerator in this tiny space? And he said, oh, okay, so now you want to change it and you want to make it a pull-out. This was in the original plan. So it's also so stupid skinny that nothing but spices will be able to go in there. And I gave him specific measurements on the height and width of the opening, and he assured me that that would work, that that would be fine. And it's not what we ended up with. And let me say, but this is ridiculously wobbly and very, very, very stiff. So then we'll come around to this side of the cabinet where he forgot to build the shelf and door for over here. I was supposed to have one corner cabinet that opened into the dining room, so it wasn't a wasted space. And then in the original plan, 2 false door fronts here so that it would just all kind of flow together. About 2 weeks ago, I said something to him about the doors for this side, and he said, oh, you want to add false doors? And I replied, no, that was part of the original design for the kitchen. So, and then also, where is it? Chipped my brand new granite countertop the day it was installed, bringing in the kitchen fridge cabinet. And I think this paint spot is bad enough that you can see it. This is what the tops of the cabinet doors look like. It is everywhere. I mean, drips everywhere. He's also supposed to be building me doors and a frame to go over this set of shelves in the back hallway, but he keeps talking circles around that, so who knows if that will actually ever happen. And I think maybe you can see up close the texture in the paint on the right cabinet in the left. With the light on them, how porous and striped it is. And I can't tell you how many times he told me that my cabinets were going to be smooth as glass. He also told me that there was a wood sale and that he was going to purchase hardwoods for my cabinets, which is what they would normally use if they were staining, but since there was a sale, he was going to purchase the hardwood and paint it. That way I would have a better quality cabinet that wouldn't ding or mark up and would last better over the years. That did not happen. I can promise you this is not hardwood. You can see every seam, and then look at the edges of the cabinet. Evidently his saw is no good because it is chewed through every piece of wood. And these are the base, boxes. This isn't just a door that can be taken down and redone. Also, within a week of putting them in, this base cabinet started cracking. And then this part was so chewed up and splitting that when they put in the granite, it broke. Here's another piece, split. That's how the boxes were delivered and set, with this kind of split and damage to them.